All right, welcome along to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast. Raf Diallo here, and joined today by former Ireland international Keith Treacy and five-time League of Ireland winner Ollie Cahill. We'll talk about the SSE Electricity League a little bit later on, as well as our live Champions League match, which will see Man City hosting RB Leipzig on RTÉ2 and RTÉ Player on Tuesday. But before we do all that, first we're going to delve into the Ireland men's team with the squad to face Latvia in a friendly, and then the qualifier against France for Euro 2024, due to be named in the very near future. But before we talk about the actual squad itself, who might partner Evan Ferguson and possible new faces, let's take the room temperature. I think back last year, Keith, when we were talking about where we were coming towards the end of the Nations League campaign, I remember you mentioned that there was a sense that Ireland were sleepwalking into the Euro 2024 campaign. And since then, we've had a friendly against Norway, friendly against Malta, kind of a mixed bag. Has anything in the last while swayed your opinion that we are sleepwalking into this campaign?
Not really, Raf. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think we've improved a great deal. I still think we're a little bit toothless when we have the ball, and sometimes when we have the ball, we're almost enemies. Teams come and they let us have the ball and they think we'll nick it, and then we go straight down their throat. And I think the three at the back, the five at the back, whatever you want to call it, I think it works well against teams like France, the bigger teams who are going to dominate the ball. We can shut up shop and then we can spring out and go and hold them. But when the likes of a Latvia or a lesser team comes here, we really, really struggle to break them down. I actually think we'll do okay against France, Raf. I have to be honest. I don't think we'll win the game. I think we'll give a good, decent fighting performance, which is what you expect. You want to see sweat on the shirt. You want to see players running with desire, with hunger. I think we'll get all that. But I still think we'll lose the game. And then obviously we're going to have the Dutch coming as well. So, look, it's an uphill battle. It really is. We're a team in transition. We're all looking forward to seeing Evan Ferguson in an Ireland jersey, but really, are we going to be able to get the ball off the French? Are we going to get it off them? Are we going to get it into Ferguson's feet? Are we going to get numbers into the box, commit numbers to the attack? I don't think so. When you've got Dembele, Mbappe, Griezmann, Giroud, all these people floating about in our final third, I'm not so sure. Look, like I said, I think we'll do okay. I hope the Latvia one is not a deflated balloon. I hope we go out and play well against them, put them to the sword, go into the French game, and just give a good account of ourselves. I think that's all we can ask really against a very, very strong French team.
Yeah, and Ollie, looking at the potential squad that's going to be named, I think it looks like Kenny has had a settled squad for the most part. And do you expect any new faces? I mean, there'll probably only be a couple at the most.
Yeah, as you said, it seems to be a pretty settled squad at the moment. I know we just spoke about there's a Mikey Johnson and the lad at Blackburn as well. Talks, will they get in? Will they not? Was Johnson forward thinking player, attacking player? Back to Keith's point, I say that's where we struggle. And then, as you say, a lot is going to revolve around Evan Ferguson, and can we get service up to him, presuming he's going to start? So a lot resting on that young man's shoulders. But in fairness to say, it has been a pretty settled squad, and it's unlikely, I'd say, that there'd be too many surprises outside of what we've seen recently.
Yeah, Sam Smodzic being one that's been talked about, as I think you mentioned, who's been at Blackburn playing quite well this season. The others, Keith, the likes of Will Smallbone, he was in the last squad, the last senior squad, and having been part of the 21s during the last European campaign, and seems to be doing quite well at Stoke of late. And then there's another one, Mark Sykes, who has been brilliant since January with Bristol City. I mean, what are the chances of, I suppose, especially Sykes, but maybe also Smallbone actually pushing closer to the 11, assuming they get selected in the squad?
I think the best case scenario is they do get into the squad and maybe they take part in the Latvia game. I don't think Stephen Kenny will be tinkering too much with the French. I think they'll go with the tried and tested, the people he trusts. And I think that's fair enough. But the lads, sometimes you come into a squad and you think, I might get 10 minutes in the first game, but when the chips are down, I'm here to learn. I'll be on the sidelines. I'll be looking in. And look, Will Smallbone's doing good. Johnson's doing good. Sykes, all exciting players, but they haven't been in international waters yet. And to throw them in against the French would be, that's deep water, really, really deep water stuff. So, yeah, look, I think they might get a couple of minutes against Latvia, but in terms of the French game, I think it'll be, we could probably name the starting 11 now, bar the injuries. And like I say, as long as we go up there and we go to the Aviva, we fight, necessarily the tactics don't really mean that much to me. I just want to see a motivated team, a team that wants to fight and win. And look, hopefully the French have an off day. We've seen lately Mbappe sometimes, even in the World Cup, the final, I know this sounds silly, he scored for a hat-trick, but he didn't play well in the game. Even against England, I thought Kyle Walker did a great job. And look, we don't have a Kyle Walker in our team, but I think if we could get a mixture of Doherty and Coleman, maybe Coleman as the third centre-half, Doherty as the right wing-back, and, you kick him, I'll take a turn at kicking him, and then so one of the centre-halves can come over and kick him as well, because he's just absolutely electric. They've an awful lot of problems. But to go back to the original question, I think maybe the French players will play against Latvia, but I don't see them playing against the French being such a quick turnaround. I think he might even rest Seamus Coleman. Doherty hasn't played a lot at Atletico Madrid either. So these sort of big lads that we need, I think they'll be wrapped in cotton wool, and maybe the French players will play the first game.
Yeah, and another one that was of potential interest was Joe Hodge at Wolves, Keith. I mean, when we were in January, I think he'd had like 5 Premier League appearances at that point, seemed to be getting a lot of minutes. That seems to have dropped off completely. He's not in the squad. So I would imagine his opportunity isn't going to come in this particular selection.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. But look, we don't have that many players in the Premier League, never mind actually playing in the Premier League week in, week out. So Hodge he's a good option. What I've seen of him, I have liked him. Maybe looks a little bit lightweight for first team football just yet. He'll probably be bullied in around the middle of the pitch. But he's still a young lad. He needs to bulk up in the gym. That sort of stuff will happen off the pitch. But yeah, really happy with what I'm seeing with him. And I do think he's one for the future. But yeah, the fact that he's just coming out of that Wolves team at the minute probably just puts a bit of a dent in his chance getting into these ones. But he's definitely one for the future, Raf, yeah.
Yeah, and Ollie also in the same position in this midfield area. Obviously, Jamie McGrath had been a key part of Ireland squads in the early part of Kenny's reign, dropped out of it, but he was back in the November window, and he's obviously playing quite well with Dundee United in the last while. And also on top of it, Jim Goodwin's gone in there, obviously an Irish manager who had him at St Mirren and rates him very highly. So I would imagine, again, he'll be another one that'll be leaned on, especially playing that sort of number 8 role.
Yeah, he did well. In fairness, Stephen liked him when he was going well. Obviously, the move to Wigan didn't really go well for him. Back up in Scotland now, seems to be finding his feet again, getting going again. And you say, like a couple of years ago, he was an integral part of the team. And it's good to have those sort of options again, as you say, like those forward-thinking players, those guys going forward. That can help and maybe do something. Jamie is one of them. So it's good to have him back in form. Can he push into the starting level? Probably not. But again, back to what Keith's saying, like the more options or the more we can get in there, the better. I think a good sign as well is probably Gavin Bazzuno's form at the moment as well. You'd be thinking against France, he's going to be worked. So he's going well. Really good performance yesterday. For Southampton against Man United. So that bodes well for us. Seamus Coleman getting goal of the month as well, so that's good. I mean, Sean Dyche gone in Everton and Coleman seems to be going well under him. So they're all positives for us as well. And that's the sort of stuff that, Stephen will be happy with going into the games.
Yeah, so as Ollie said there, Keith, I mean, Seamus Coleman coming into form at a good time, especially given that kind of the issues at right back, right wing back, with Matt Doherty having had such little game time since moving to Atletico Madrid. And I guess with Doherty, sometimes, as great a player as he is, with maybe it's the style of play that he has, but when he's not match sharp, it sometimes shows a bit more than it would with some other players, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes we read into Matt Doherty's body language an awful lot. And I was one as a player, sometimes my body language looked a million miles off what I was actually thinking in my head. And I'm very reluctant to read into players' body language because it's just something you think for some reason. It doesn't look up for it. But Matt Doherty's performances for Ireland have been largely good. And I do think Stephen Kenny will stick with him. I know he's not playing an awful lot at Atletico, and that's worrying because you would assume that Simeone's took a look at him defensively and thought, he's not for me. And I obviously know Kieran Trippier very well. And when Kieran Trippier went to Atletico, he wasn't the best defender in the world, but Simeone was prepared to work with him and made him a much, much better defender. I was hoping that that's what's going to happen with Doherty. There's still time for that to happen. But look, in terms of that, I'm not sure if we will play him. I'm fairly sure we will play him unless he's carrying some sort of injury in the background. But yeah, I'm fairly sure he will play. He might even get a half against Latvia just to try and get him up to a bit of speed. But he'll be near enough wrapped in cotton wool. And I watched, I done the commentary for Nottingham Forest against Everton, and Seamus Coleman was the best player on the pitch. He was brilliant. His energy up and down the wing, flying into tackles. He was 100 mile an hour. And I can see Sean Dyche's DNA going into that Everton team, not just Coleman, and Coleman being the captain is grabbing people by the scruff of the neck, and hopefully he can bring that now into the Irish team as well, and we'll all bode well.
Yeah, and I don't know if that goal of the month Ollie was talking about, if that was a shot or a cross. I think I was watching that game live, if I recall. It was a good finish either way, whether he meant it or not.
We're giving it to him. I think he meant it because there was no one in the box, so I'm going to go, yeah, we're giving it to him.
Yeah, well, any Premier League scores we can get at this rate anyway. But Evan Ferguson
he's not convinced there, are you?
I don't know. But in regards to Evan Ferguson, 3 Premier League goals since New Year's Eve. And Ollie, I mean, the question isn't really so much, is he going to start? I think there's an expectation there's a good chance he'll start against France, and he probably will start against Latvia just to give him, a third cap and more international experience. But who would you be partnering with him? I mean, Callum Robinson's injured, so the options who are likely to be in the squad are Obafemi, Ida, who's returned, Parrott, and Ogbene. Obviously, Aaron Connolly also is going to be unavailable, having made a reasonable start to his time with Hull. But who do you think is the ideal partner to bring the best out of him, and also maybe mitigate maybe areas of Evan's game that still need a little bit of work?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, as I said. Like Obafemi, Ogbene, they've been chipping in with a few goals. Rodham's done well, lively, full of energy, get around. He could be the one. It's tricky. There's a lot resting on Evan. There's a lot resting on him for such a young lad. But the impact he's made in the Premier League, and the way De Zerbi has spoke about him, and everyone has spoken about him, and the good thing you hear about him is the attitude. We all know what he can do, but he seems to have a really good attitude. And look, I know his dad and have played against him, and it's no surprise that Evan has that attitude. So a lot of focus is going to be on him. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who can match up. Omafemi has done well for Ireland, so it's another option there. But I think maybe Ogbene, just get around, lively, capable of chipping in with a goal here and there as well. It just brings that bit of energy to things. I'm not sure Obafemi and Ferguson together would it work. But look, it might. I'm not sure what way Stephen's going to go. But for me, I would probably go with Ogbene.
Yeah, and Keith, similarly in terms of complementing Evan Ferguson, presuming he's going to start, and hopefully assuming he's also going to be fit for this upcoming international window. Who do you think complements his game best of those forward options that are there already?
I'd be pretty similar to what Ollie's saying. I would play Ogbene and I would go Obafemi as well. And obviously, look, Ferguson's going to be isolated against France. I think we can all see where that's going to come from. Ogbene and Obafemi will be pulled back. They'll be really, really deep. But the good thing about that is we're going to have a bank of 5 and a bank of 4, and then Ferguson will be up by himself. Obafemi and Ogbene can eat up the ground. So if we do get it fizzling into Ferguson's feet, his first job is to hold her up, let the lads go and get close to him. It will only be Obafemi and Ogbene. I don't think we'll overextend ourselves in that regard. So for me, yeah, get the 2 speedsters there. And of course, if Mbappe plays on the left or the right back or the left back is going to be left 1v1 all the time, because Mbappe, he's not going to do an awful lot of running back. So you would tell Ogbene that, look, you've got a job to do defensively. You're going to go and have to help Coleman, Doherty, whoever it is. But when we get a chance to attack, I need you up that pitch as well. I need you to give me all you can for 60, 70 minutes. We can change it if you like, but empty the tank out there defensively and offensively. You will get chances, but we have to keep the French out. That's the big one for me. And look, I just don't. I hope Ferguson. I do think he will play against Latvia, Raf, like you're saying, just to get a feel for it again, and then he'll come in and play against France. It'd be awful, wouldn't it, if something was to happen to him in that Latvia game? And that's what Stephen Kennedy will be thinking. That's what all the Irish fans are thinking. Please, like Ollie was saying, when Fabinho put in that tackle on him, all the Irish are thinking, oh God, no, please don't be injured. And thankfully, he managed to bounce back from it. So he'll be wrapped up in cotton wool for the Latvia game. But hopefully he gets a goal. Hopefully he hits the back of the net. He starts finding a bit of form for Ireland as well. And we have that striker that we all want.
Yeah, and in terms of the back 4, Keith, as well, I mean, or the back 5 generally, obviously we know who the options for the wing back roles are going to be. The back 3 part of that has been very, very settled. So you've Dara O'Shea at West Brom has been in really good form. And then you've John Egan, who's part of a promotion push with Sheffield United. Shane Duffy is out of that, and Nathan Collins, albeit not so much game time recently, he did come on yesterday to as Wolves changed formation when they were playing Newcastle. But Shane Duffy seems out of it. Andrew Bamidele is likely to come back. Do you think Shane Duffy's out of it to the point that he's actually out of the squad as well? Because game time has been limited, very, very limited at Fulham.
I'm not so sure, Raf. I think if you're looking at it on paper, he shouldn't be in the squad. But when you start scratching in and who are we going to bring in instead of him, who's going to play, I think Duffy's a great option off the bench. I don't think we can play him just because he's not match fit and it'd be a huge ask for him. But if we're losing 1-0 to France or 2-1 to France with 10 minutes to go, I mean, I wouldn't be adverse to just throwing him on the front. I know that's not Stephen Kenny's style, but he's a big threat in the box, in either box. He's very, very good defensively. He's one of Ireland's top goal scorers with Stephen Kenny, if he's not the top goal scorer. So, yeah, look, I throw him on the bench and, whatever happens in the last 10 minutes, if we're still in the French game, start pumping balls into the box, because that's what the French don't like. The neat, tippy-tappy football is what they want, hit you with the counter-attack, lots of pace. You start putting balls into the box, look, I think you don't complicate the game against the French. You get it into wide areas, you put it into decent quality into the box. If they win, you get certain, you get your centre midfielders to close them in. Look, it's going to be a difficult game. But yeah, I think you start with Collins. I know Collins isn't playing, and it's a tough one when you sit Shane Duffy down and say, "Listen, you're not going to play because you haven't been playing for your club," and then you're going to go and start Nathan Collins. Or you understand that, but it's horses for courses. Collins has been playing a little bit more. He's a little bit younger. He will be able to do it to a certain degree, a little bit easier than Shane Duffy. So, yeah, I think O'Shea, Egan and Collins will be the three. But, you never know. It's very hard to second guess Stephen Kenny on these things.
Yeah, we'll see that. Obviously, squad likely to be named in the next few days. And then after that, of course, Latvia 5 days before the game on the 27th. Against France, which is the one that I think has been marked down on the calendar now for a number of months. But anyway, we're going to turn our attentions to the SSE RTÉ League Premier Division. And on Friday, Derry City, the leaders, drew 0-0 with what has become now an informed Dundalk after their very good weekend the previous weekend. Shells and Shamrock Rovers drew 0-0. Pats and Bohemians, that was a victory for Bohemians against 10-man Pats, who are struggling after having made a kind of solid start to the season. But last three matches have gone very, very awry, starting with the 5-0 defeat at Dundalk and then followed by losing to 10-man Sligo then on the Monday. And then Drogheda United continue their solid start to the season with a 1-0 win at UCD. And then on Saturday, Sligo Rovers and Cork City shared the points, 2-2 draw there with Sligo coming from 2 goals down. And just on Sligo Rovers first, it looks like they're going to have a very, very inconsistent season. What have you made of Sligo so far? Because they seem very, very up and down.
Yeah, that's it. You've hit the nail on the head. Inconsistent. I saw most of their game against Shamrock Rovers a few weeks ago and thought they were good, really good. They're tough at home. They have a few new bodies in, but I like the look of what I saw. But I suppose that inconsistency, they come back late, scored a late goal against Rovers. Obviously a couple of late goals the other night again. So that's a good trait. And I saw John Russell's interview after the game as well. He's probably disappointed overall with the performance, but the positive for him is bouncing back again to get those 2 goals from being 2-0 down. Cork had a couple of chances to possibly make it 3. So that's the positives for him. But I suppose he'd be a little bit frustrated with the up and down nature and the inconsistency of them. At the moment, still only 5 games in. I say still a few new faces. I see their bench the other night, even if some experience there, Danny Lafferty, David Crawley, guys who know the league inside out, and also they have quality there. They have quality there. As you said, there'd be no fear of them getting dragged into the bottom half. I think they'll be pushing up towards the top half. Whether they can challenge, yeah, they might challenge for Europe, but they just need to get a consistent run together. But look, under day they're capable of giving anyone a game, that's for sure. As I say, and it'll be interesting to see. As I say, John has done a really good job there, and Sligo is always a tough place to go. So yeah, they'll still be positive. As I say, despite the inconsistency, they'll still be positive with the start they've had. And if they can iron out a few things here and there, they can see no reason why they can't keep pushing up towards the top end of the table.
Yeah, and Cork City, on the other hand, have had a couple of good draws now in a row after having beaten UCD comprehensively just before that. So went to Tala and ended up being an 8-goal thriller where they got a point, and then also, as we just said there on Saturday, getting a point to Sligo Rovers. And Keith, I suppose they're showing that despite maybe a couple of concerns at the beginning of the season when we were talking to Neil Horgan about whether they could adapt very quickly to that big step up to the Premier Division, they seem to be matching what their, I suppose, that ambition of being able to compete.
Yeah, exactly. And I was very interested in the Rovers game when Cork went up to Tala. I was thinking this is a real test, because Rovers obviously hadn't won a game yet. And you're thinking Rovers are a wounded animal here. They could really try and put Cork to the sword. And you're thinking, is this going to be a 5 or a 6? But they were excellent. To go to Tala and score 4 goals is a difficult thing to do. And I know they conceded 4 goals, but to get a draw against the league champions, the runaway league champions last season, is excellent stuff. And then to go and back it up in Sligo as well is really good stuff. And I just hope they're able to keep it going, because the one worry for me is I know they have a very decent starting 11, the starting 11 that can compete against most teams in this league. If you start picking 1 or 2 out at the bench, it's not quite up to standard. I think it comes down 1 or 2 levels if you do have to start replacing a couple of players. So yeah, for me, if they can keep the players fit, keep them motivated like they should be, being back in the big league, then yeah, Cork have every chance of staying in the league. I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing with them so far.
Yeah, and Drogheda.
Sorry, Keith. After the first game, it was live on the TV and all, and they didn't play well on the night, and that Cork are going to struggle, but they've bounced back really well. They're top scorers in the division. I know they've conceded 10 as well, the second highest in the division too. But as you said, that's a huge result in Tala and in Sligo, But I suppose the disappointing thing from their end is losing the 2-goal lead in Tala and losing the 2-goal lead in Sligo as well. So that's something they'll have to improve on. But they've bounced back well from that initial defeat to Bohs on the opening day.
Yeah, and Drogheda as well have made a very solid start, 8 points from their opening 5 games, which represents a good outlay for the moment. And they faced Dundalk in the derby on Thursday, Ollie, and your old Shelburne teammate, obviously Kevin Doherty in charge there, did a very good job last season, continuing in the same vein this campaign. I mean, from your recollection of him in the dressing room, was he always somebody you felt was destined for management and kind of leading the way in this way?
Not really. I wouldn't have picked him out initially as definitely going into management. He was a great lad. He was brilliant attitude, and just so he was unlucky when we played. He got with injuries and stuff, but obviously he finished playing early, so still had the bug and still kept involved. So as you say, I think he's done a fantastic job with Drogheda. Brilliant last year, this year. I know they had plans to be going full time, and he's probably promised a decent budget, better than what's on now. I think the budget eventually got cut. So he's put together a team, 8 points after 5 games as well. But just looking even through, like they've Conor Keeley, Gary Deegan, Ryan Brennan, Darren Markey, some decent players there, sprinkled with some young lads as well coming in. But they've got off to a good start. Again, I saw them against Rovers. I know Rovers had a couple of men sent off, but they battled away. The opening night of the season as well, away in Shells, they kept battling away. They plugged on, picking up points. And again, they'll be delighted with that start. Whether they can sustain it across the year, it remains to be seen. As maybe back to what Keith is saying about Cork, that the squad might go against them. But for now, brilliant start. And they say Kev's done a magnificent job there.
Yeah, and Keith, you were at Richmond Park for Pats' third defeat on the trot, where they lost 2-0 to what is an in-form Bohemians in a Dublin derby. And like last week, we were talking to Johnny McDonnell about Pats' start of the season. He was saying they needed to reboot their campaign after kind of it going off the rails. But what was your view? What was your take on what you saw firsthand, and what needs to be done there to get them back on the right track?
Well, first of all, Raf, the Bohs were excellent. I have to say, I thought Bohs were really good. It was my first time seeing them this season, and they defended the 2 centre halves. Mikowski and Nowak were brilliant. They put themselves into brilliant positions. There was Pats didn't play well in the game, but there was a period in the game where they started putting some decent balls into the box and they asked questions. Talbot in the goal, come out, handling was brilliant. Never get Pats a sniff. Like I say, the 2 centre halves were brilliant. Kirk, the left back, was really good. But it was the same old problems from Pats. There was too much space all over the pitch. They were so spread out. Like when you look at Bohs and you look at Pats, Bows were really compact, really together, and they forced Pats to play from side to side. They never got through the Bows midfield. And when they did, Bows were waiting for them. They were closing the door and licking the ball. Pats weren't like that. Pats were so open. And yeah, the big thing that was noticeable for me, when they did get the ball forward, Tom Lonergan, only in from UCD, he's learning the league still, still a young lad. He needs a bit of help up there. The two wingers for Pats they were so far back, they just couldn't get up to help him. And when they did, he was probably 3v1 every time Tom Lonergan got it, and it was a fighting ball as well. So, look, Pats weren't great. They've a list as long as my arm that they need to address during the week. But I give an awful lot of credit to Bows. In the final third, they quickened up the pass and it went to one two-touch stuff. McDonald in the middle. It sounds like such an easy thing, Raf, but the amount of running that McDonald does off the ball is unbelievable. To try and get a player to run without the ball, it's so hard. It's such a difficult thing to get them to do, but McDonald just does it so much. Afalabi up front was an absolute handful. Akintunde, a handful, and the little Scottish boy Cute on the left, he sets up the first goal. He's just picking up spaces all over the place, and the front two, the front three, whatever you want to call it, they just keep rotating everywhere, and the Pats players just couldn't get the grips with whatsoever. The second goal for Bows, Pats actually have a free kick in their left corner, so it's in the corner, and the goalkeeper goes to take it. So no, it's the centre half. Creator takes it. The centre half doesn't even want it. He's running away from it. They're just not on the same wave. There's a minute to go. Kick the ball up the pitch, get it into the mixer and see if you can score. Literally 30 seconds to go, and he play a short free kick. They're not on the same wavelength. It breaks down and Bows go and score and make it 2-2. And like I say, not an awful lot of improvements need to be made by Pats. But I have to say, Bows, Rovers obviously haven't clicked into gear just yet. But Bows, and I know Derry are doing well, Bows are probably my tip to, if they can sustain that and play like they did against Pats, they'll be there or thereabouts at the end of the season.
Yeah, and as you said, Shamrock Rovers, haven't really got going at this stage, so still waiting for their first win after 5 rounds of action. But Ollie, you were watching their match against Shells, which ended up being a 0-0 draw, but it's actually kind of intriguing enough, and Shelburne can take a lot of credit for how organised they were.
Yeah, I was at the game. It was an interesting game more than exciting. Yeah, Shells, I think you know what you get with Shells. They're going to work really hard. They're disciplined. They kept their shape. They dropped into that low block, and I thought Rovers struggled to really break them down. There was some nice passages of play from Rovers. They kept the ball really. I think it was about 70% possession they had in the end. But at times I'd have liked them to really stretch the game, getting it wide, get Farrugia, get them running at them, try and stretch them. But it was keep the ball back inside, and they went the other side. And I just thought they never really stretched Shells, never really stretched them. Shells were able to move side to side, keep their unit in place, didn't get stretched. Now, Shells didn't really offer a threat going forward, and I don't think that Alan Manis had a save to make. But they were happy enough to sit in and defend, and they were organised. I say Rovers will be disappointed. They had a couple of chances, nothing really clear cut. I think Conor Kearns had a couple of saves to make, one from Burke in the first half, another one Gaffney probably should have scored with a header. But it wasn't as if Rovers had put them to the sword and had them under the cosh. And I just thought even the crowd from both sides was kind of didn't really get into the game, because neither team, gave them a chance to get into the game and really, really lift the players on the pitch. So, but it was an intriguing kind of tactical battle, and it was interesting. But I think there's more in Rovers. I don't think, obviously, they'll be panicking yet. Obviously, 4 points after 5 games is not where they imagined they would be. But look, I think Stephen Bradley said it after, they could go on a 30-match unbeaten run. They could win the next 10 in a row if they really want to. I mean, the likes of Burt was coming on, and Trevor Clark comes on. So the strength and depth they have there will be used and will be needed. But I think there's more in them. But look, all credit to Shells. They knew what they were up against. You're going to have to suffer against Rovers. They're possession based. They keep the ball. They've really good players, but they kept their shape. They dug in. They battled away. So they never really threatened. But I'd say they're happy enough for the point at the end.
Yeah, and Bradley has been talking up the performances, Shamrock Rovers' performances. He's been fairly insistent that they have been playing well, and in passages like against Derry City, they actually played quite well in parts of that game. But is there a point, Ollie, that you see maybe where they might have to tweak, because they've had a very consistent system, which has been very, very successful. But do you think there's tweaks needed to it, even maybe a change of formation from time to time? Because obviously the back three has been very solid, but maybe there's other ways of trying to break down teams like shells, where maybe teams have sort of worked out how to stop that system.
Yeah, possibly. I suppose, again, listening to Stephen, he was saying obviously defensively against Cork, they were poor, conceding 4 goals. So then they go and keep a clean sheet against Rovers. I know that obviously the 3 lads, Cleary, Lopez and Grace, they have had their sentence off and suspensions and all. So I think he'll probably just get back to that settled back 3. And normally, like, they can get up the pitch because they keep possession and they can pin teams back. But see, the one thing for me that I would have just thought, see, if they get the ball wide, that the wide men can really get at the full back, get down the outsides of them, maybe stretch them, cutbacks for guys coming from midfield then to have shots. But they didn't really do that. I think he's played that system, for a couple of years now, and seems quite comfortable playing it and happy playing with it. And maybe he does it with a view to Europe as well. But yeah, I don't know. Will he change it? Probably not. They have the personnel, I think, to at any time, if they just up it, they can really, really open teams up. But maybe at times they're just still playing within themselves, thinking, "Oh, look, we're better than these." But you really have to go and show it and just grab the game by the scruff of the neck and say, someone just to stretch them, run at players, maybe pull 1 or 2 out of position to open it up for other players, and say they have the players that can exploit that then. So, but look, as I say, they're obviously they're in a false position, 8 points behind Bows. You wouldn't want to be getting too far further than that away, to be honest. I know it's early doors and they say that they're capable of going on a run, but it's going to be a really interesting game on Friday. 2 teams, that really need a win. In Tala, I'm sure there'll be a big crowd on Patrick's Day as well. So that's going to be a really, really interesting game. And it's set up nicely, probably in a different way than what we thought. You'd have thought the 2 of them will be pushing up towards the top at this stage, but it's still set up nicely to be a cracker, I think.
Yeah, and in the first division, Finn Harps still winless so far this season, drew 0-0 with Wexford, and then Treaty United were beaten 3-0 by Cove Ramblers, who've now won 3 and 4. Galway United a 9-1 win over Kerry, and then Bray Wanderers Longford Town was goalless, and then Athlone Town lost 1-0 at home to Waterford, who have regained some form. Just on the 9-1, and just I suppose the nature of trashings, Keith, obviously Kerry are new to the league, and it's expected that results like this are going to come along the line at some point, and it's just kind of dealing with it. So from their point of view, I guess it's just a thing of learn from it, dust yourself down and sort of move on, in the knowledge that, these type of results are going to come at this very early point in the club's history.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what Billy Dennehy will be saying to the lads, that look, we're very much just cutting our teeth in the league now. It's a big, big step up for most of the players, and these results will come along every so often for them. Like I say, they're new to the league. It's a professional system, and look, I like everybody. I'm delighted to see Kerry in the league. Everybody wants to go down there. It's a lovely part of the country, but they won't play Galway every week. Galway are one of the standout teams in that division, so things will get easier for them. They've been in games up till then, but the 9-1, I'm sure Billy Dennehy, that'll be the message. Look, Galway are outstanding at this level, so we won't play them every week. There will be certain games that they will target. Galway away wouldn't have been one of the games that they would have targeted getting some points. So it's a right bashing, but like I said, I'm sure Billy Dennehy probably bring them out for a point after that and just forget about it. Get back to work on Monday, and like you said, there's not an awful lot you can say to the lads. Just try and pick them back up and go again.
Yeah, and also Ollie, Cove Ramblers, just to give them a mention, obviously with 3 wins from 4. When you look at how they finished last season, where they were bottom of the first division, struggled to get points on the board. Shane Keegan's doing a really good job there in his first full season in charge.
Yeah, tremendous start. Brought a few players in, like experience in goal, like Lee Stacey, and fellow tip man Jack Doherty grabbing a couple of goals as well. He got 2 at the weekend. So yeah, they're going well. It's a good win. Treaty obviously haven't won a game yet, so they've been struggling, but still like tricky place to go. They've been really competitive the last couple of years. So Cove, will be delighted with that start. Shane, as I say, just in the job, doing a brilliant job so far. Pushing Galway. I say Galway, look, clear favourites to come out with that division. As Keith is saying, they seem to be a cut above the rest there. But look, you never know. Still, things can get competitive. Waterford, cracking goal from I think it was Shane Griffin the weekend against that loan, super free kick. So they'll be thereabouts as well. So yeah, it's interesting. But Cove will be absolutely delighted with the start, and Shane Keegan obviously done a really good job so far.
Yeah, and in the Women's Premier Division second round of action, Wexford beat Sligo 3-1. Shamrock Rovers, who are also like Kerry FC in the men's first division, are also new to their division. 6-0 win over Treaty, and then Cork City lost 1-0 at home to Galway. Peamount beat DLR Waves 1-0, and then Bows lost 2-0 at home to double champions Shelburne. So in the Wexford game, the off-season signings, Emily Corbett, who was brilliant for Athlone Town last season, she got off the mark for the first time at Wexford, and Rihanna Jarrett, who's returned to Wexford now as well, also got off the mark, scoring a header from 6 yards out. And then in the Shamrock Rovers game, one of the goals to watch out for, it's from Jamie Thompson, who got a hat-trick, but her third goal, chipping the keeper from distance, is well worth a watch in terms of the highlights. But before we go, let's touch on the Champions League. We've got Manchester City against Leipzig on RTÉ2 and the RTÉ Player on Tuesday night. 7:30 coverage starts and then kick off at 8. In terms of City, I mean, they won, well, they edged to victory against Crystal Palace at the weekend, Ollie. I mean, it was a penalty that Erling Haaland scored. They seem to be still struggling to click into gear, but they are picking up results at this stage and just keeping pressure on Arsenal. However, on the other side, RB Leipzig are going to be quite dangerous opposition, I imagine.
Yeah, tricky Leipzig. I wouldn't be dismissing it or saying City are guaranteed to go through. City will have to work for it. Leipzig are a decent side, but the City just seem to be doing enough at times without setting the world alight. But if City play to their potential, yeah, they should beat them and go through. But I say it's not a tie that they'll be taking lightly. Pep will know that as well. But they're keeping tabs with Arsenal. Arsenal have been fantastic. Really good, brilliant win yesterday again at a tricky venue at Fulham. So they're hanging on there. So the title running in the Premier League is going to be interesting. But yeah, City will be, they'll be favourites obviously to go through against Leipzig. But I say I wouldn't be too confident of them just sailing through it. They will definitely have to work, and Leipzig will put it up to them.
Yeah, and Keith, obviously the first leg ended up being 1-1 in Germany. So obviously there's no away goals in the Champions League knockout stages these days. But even that being said, City just have a habit of sometimes slipping up in Europe. I don't know if this tie is going to be the one, but they are under pressure in this competition given they still haven't won it before.
Yeah, and half the time I think it's just Pep Guardiola overthinking things. I'm very reluctant to speak against Pep Guardiola. He's obviously a brilliant tactician, knows what he's doing. But I just think the 11 they have is nine times out of 10 is better than the 11 that anybody else has on the pitch. So tactics are secondary. If the more talented team works as hard as the other team, they'll win the game. Tactics, sometimes you get bogged down in playing people and hold. Bernardo Silva going left back. All this sort of stuff is a bit too much. I mean, if they go out there and they work as hard as Leipzig, their talent will shine through and they'll win the game. But to touch on what you're saying about them, in the unbeaten in 8 now, Raf scored 18 goals in the last 8 games. The last three games they kept 3 clean sheets. So I know what you're saying about the Palace. Palace had a very, very difficult team to beat. I know they haven't won a game this year so far, but the performances under Patrick Vieira have actually been quite good. The point tally is not weighing up with the performances. So that was always going to be a difficult game, and they found a way to win. It was a penalty. Haaland actually missed 1 or 2 chances that we would have expected him to score in that game as well. So, look, I think there's 12 games left in the season. City, just for me, they're starting to come into form exactly when you want them. They're starting to find a bit of momentum at the business end of the season, and I just think their level is up there. That people are saying they still have another gear to go, another 2 gears to go, and that's the worrying thing for Arsenal. We know I'm an Arsenal fan, and I think the only reason Arsenal don't win the league is because Manchester City go and find 6th gear and just blow everybody away. A little bit like what we're saying about Shamrock Rovers in our league, that we expect Shamrock Rovers, they could go on an unbeaten run if they really, really wanted to. I think City could if they really, really wanted to. But do we think Arsenal can do that? I see Arsenal dropping a few points, but look, it's going to be a great race, and the good thing for Arsenal is, will Manchester City's eye be taking off the ball in the Champions League? You know, the deeper they go in the Champions League, the squad will get stretched. Will they start dumping the Premier League, and then maybe Arsenal can win it that way? I'm not too sure, but if Arsenal do want to win it, they would have deserved it. You know, I wouldn't be buying into City squad is stretching this. They've been excellent so far, Arsenal. If they can keep it going, they deserve to win it. But my mind is still pretty fresh when they went to Tottenham last season and got beat 3-0, and they come out of the Champions League race and just capitulated after that. So that's still pretty fresh in my mind. And I'm sure Mikel Arteta is letting the Arsenal players know that we're doing brilliant, but the finish line is still a little bit away yet. We're probably one of the best teams in the world chasing us. So it's not over. Keep doing what you're doing, play game by game. And obviously, the Europa League will be coming into Arsenal thoughts as well. So it's a great race at the top, great race at the bottom as well, with Sean Dyche breathing new life into Everton as well. Southampton very unlucky against United not to get 3 points yesterday as well. So great races all over, but I think City are just kicking into gear, Raf. I know they're not their fluid best, but I think they're just kicking into gear at the right time.
Yeah, and Arsenal still have to go to Anfield, which is even with Liverpool's form being up and down, that's a very tough place to go. They still have to go to the Etihad, of course, and they had lost to City at the Emirates about a month or so ago, and then also they have to go to St James's Park. Newcastle, maybe after yesterday's win, probably clicking back into gear. However, as Ollie said, great performance at Fulham, who have been in great form this season and, you know, performing above expectations. Does a performance like that and the way they handled it, especially they had a blip a few weeks ago, and then they had that shake, you know, the emotion of that shaky match against Bournemouth last weekend. I mean, are you kind of impressed at how they're handling it, especially being such a young team?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with how they handle it. I go back to the Aston Villa game when it was 2-2, and there's just so many things just falling into Arsenal's favour at the minute. When Arsenal signed Jorginho from Chelsea, a lot of the Arsenal fans were thinking, he's one pace, he's not somebody you want to be bringing in to win the league. And when he hits that shot and it goes in off Martinez's back and goes in, all the Arsenal fans are suddenly, yeah, Jorginho, he's accepted now, we're all in. And then they go and get the 97th minute winner against Bournemouth. As much as losing can become a habit, winning becomes a habit. And now them Arsenal players are, you know, the 80th minute, if things are not going well, they're getting that feeling now that it will come, we will score, don't panic. And it's just all going in. And even with Jesus coming off the bench yesterday as well, it's just all coming right for Arsenal at the right time as well. Look, Trossard, even when you think of Trossard and Mudryk, Arsenal were favourites to go and get Mudryk. Mudryk wanted to sign for Arsenal, but then he ends up at Chelsea and we end up with Trossard. And that seems to have worked out better for Arsenal as well. Trossard looks absolutely outstanding. And I was a big fan of his at Brighton. Loved what he was doing at Belgium. Did I expect him to hit the ground running like this at Arsenal? Not really. I have to be honest. I didn't think he was like 3 assists in one game is really outstanding stuff. You know, they have Arsenal now. They defend properly in the midfield. They're formidable, and up front, if you give them a chance, they will hit the back of the net. So, like I say, everything just seems to be falling into Arsenal's lap. And I heard the commentary yesterday on Sky. They were described as smooth as silk, some of the passing, and that's the best way to put it. Some of the passing that Arsenal do, it's you get the tactics forward out. You say A to B to C to D. And Arsenal are just doing it. Control a touch. And the basics they're doing, they do them really well. And the hard stuff, they do it really well. So, look, Arsenal are going to take some beating, but, you know, it's Manchester City at the end of the day, and they have all the form. So, yeah, it's going to be a tight one. But Arsenal have that winning feeling, which is a tough one.
Yeah, and obviously
typical Arsenal fan there. Optimism all rolled into one game.
As soon as I say I back Arsenal to win the league, I think they're going to win it. That's when the nosedive is coming. So I'm just staying away from this.
Yeah. Obviously, as a supporter, generally, I'd be of always in mind never to jinx things, regardless of what team you support. Anyway, we've got as I said, Champions League on Tuesday night on RTÉ2 and the RTÉ Player. That's between City and RB Leipzig, and then on Friday there's also a live match between Derry City and Sligo Rovers. Same channel, and obviously Friday is also St. Patrick's Day. So if you're not out and about and enjoying Paddy's Day like a lot of people would, there is, or you can actually go to the game as well. But if you're not, you can catch it on TV. So Ollie Cahill, thanks a million for taking the time, and also Keith Treacy.
No problem, man.